I hope you're all doing well and that you had a great week. To all of my house guests, come in, make yourselves at home, make yourselves comfortable. If you're visiting my channel for the first time and you'd like to become a house guest, don't forget to hit subscribe and activate all of your notifications. I'm Chez, this is Chez M0i. Welcome to my place. Guys, welcome to episode 7 of Coffee Chats, a series of alternative perspectives. You guys, I have to mention the weather. The reason I've got this fan is because it's 29 degrees outside. It's cooler inside, but it's still hot. It's Friday evening, it's 6:45 and I'm literally melting. This fan is from Wimbledon, the tennis tournament. Now, my daughter got this for me last year. When she's back in the UK in the summers, she works at Wimbledon. This is the first time I've used it because my portable electric fan has packed up and I need to keep cool while I'm talking to you. So please don't get distracted. This is well needed, okay? You will have seen that I am drinking raspberry and orange blossom soda. Now, if you have watched any of my videos where I've been out to restaurants, one time I think was with my mum, some other times I've been out with Gina, and she actually introduced me to Fever Tree. I picked up a couple of bottles today because it's quite mild on your stomach. It's not heavy and it's very refreshing. So you can see it's almost finished. I need to take another sip. Let me know what you're drinking, guys. If the weather's like this, I'll be shocked if you're drinking a hot drink right now. But anyway, put it in the comments. I'll be interested to know. Before we get further into this video, I wanted to highlight a couple of comments from the previous episode, episode 6, and here they are. This comment comes from Dorothy Cordes, and she says, Chez M0i, thank you for your podcast and for being brave enough to talk about a subject that most people have a hard time facing. I have many questions about the UK, but you answered a few of my questions. This comment is from Carlotta Walker 6185. Thank you for that information. Today in the Caribbean, that practice still exists, only we call it meeting turns. We pay a fixed amount each week or month, depending on how you are paid, and every member gets a turn each week or month, as the case may be. It is very helpful because you can plan your business around it. As for that Windrush, I know of people who have had it rough as far as treatment is concerned. Some who went to work on the London transport and some who went into nursing. So when I read about the treatment meted out to Meghan, I am not surprised. Nothing surprises me anymore. So as always, I'd like to thank every single one of you who took the time to write comments and contribute, because it gives all of us in this community insight into how we all think about different subjects. So thank you once again. Now, this episode 7. This is based on a story which I heard today. It was reported on a couple of days ago. Newsweek picked this up, and The people involved are not mentioned by name, they're mentioned by their Reddit handles. And here's the article. This article is from newsweek.com, dated 5th of July 2023. Dad refusing to pay for daughter's wedding over her one demand backed. A father refusing to pay for his daughter's wedding after she denied his request to walk her down the aisle is being backed online. In a post on July 2nd to Reddit, user live_appointment4219 wrote that his 19-year-old daughter is getting married. Describing her as an independent thinker, she has chosen to eschew certain wedding traditions. This includes having her father give her away at the altar, calling the act sexist. She argues that her mother and I don't own her, therefore we have no right to give her away, the 48-year-old father wrote. I feel hurt by this because we never treated her like an object or piece of property. Rather, we've tried our best to provide her with a wonderful life. Like many wedding customs, etiquette expert Lisa Mirza-Grotz said the tradition has evolved over time. Many couples embrace a more egalitarian approach, aiming to remove gender-specific roles or expectations, she told Newsweek. As societal norms continue to evolve, some couples reinterpret or adapt traditional customs to align with contemporary values, Grotz said. This can include both parents or another family to walk the bride down the aisle or ditching the tradition altogether. Couples may also incorporate unique rituals, symbolic gestures, or cultural practices that hold personal significance for them, rather than adhering strictly to long-standing traditions, Grotz added. The Reddit user wrote that he and his daughter have always been close, and this fallout is the first real snag in their relationship. I respect her choices, but I feel she's disregarding our feelings completely, he posted. As a response, I told her that if she feels that way, then I won't be paying for her wedding. Live_appointment4219 added he's not controlling or manipulative, but that he also doesn't owe her the wedding money. She can pay for her own wedding if she's insistent on this stance, he wrote. The tradition of a father giving away the bride began when men literally owned their daughters, according to brides.com. The act symbolized a father handing his daughter over to her new husband, usually in exchange for a dowry, money or gifts to compensate for her loss of labor and childbearing potential. The majority of Reddit users backed the poster. You heard her, she's independent, commented Dark Yoda 182. Independent people deal with their own bills. Father of the bride paying for the wedding came from the exact same tradition as walking her down the aisle and giving her away, wrote Automatic Capital 33. Dumping one tradition while keeping the other because you'd quite like to keep the money, thanks, is hypocritical. Money_pair agreed, writing, if it's about the concept, keep it consistent at least, not only when it's beneficial. However, some users felt he was using money to control his daughter. You care more about meaningless traditions than your daughter's happiness, commented DCM510. You raised an independent thinker, but when that independent thinking is counter to you, you're going to punish her, asked Storm's Chance. You straight are acting out on emotions and a bruised ego, wrote So Long Meatbags. Keep it up and your daughter will probably just rescind your invite. Try to respect your child's independent thinking and point of view, and you shouldn't expect your children to always compromise their principles because of your feelings, posted Embarrassed Debate 60. In an update, live_appointment4219 wrote that he and his daughter reached a compromise. I've decided to give my daughter a gift in the same amount as her older sister's wedding cost, he added. My daughter has also agreed to figure out a way to include us in a way that doesn't involve giving her away. We disagree, but that doesn't mean it's a relationship-ending event. What do I think about this? Firstly, I noted the age of the bride-to-be. And then I thought to myself, your dad, okay, you don't want him to walk you down the aisle because you're saying that we don't live in a patriarchal society and it's sexist. Those are that's your thought process. But there was one commenter who said, well, if she doesn't want that part of the tradition, she shouldn't have the other part of the tradition where her father is actually paying for the wedding. And I agree with him or her 100%. You don't want your dad to walk you down the aisle, but you're happy to take his money to pay for your wedding. If you're so independent, pay for it yourself. Pay for the wedding yourself. At the end of the day, your parents have looked after you, they've fed you, they've clothed you, they've made sure you've had a good education. You know, I guess the child will argue that, well, I didn't ask to be born, you know, that's your obligation. That's fine, but not all parents are like that. Some parents abandon their kids, some parents treat their kids with such cruelty, some people abuse their children. I just think it's disingenuous for this child, because she's still a child as far as I'm concerned, to have that audacity to say, you know, she may well not want her father to walk her down the aisle, but to say to him that it's sexist and, you know, she's an independent thinker, what have you, that's fine. Pay for your own wedding then. Because you can't have it both ways. There was a YouTuber, she's quite a big YouTuber, British woman, and she recently got married and she had the wedding at her home. Her and her husband now, lovely wedding, she's documented it on YouTube. And her father passed away when she was a child. So that day for her, what I observed was bittersweet because her father wasn't there. That couple had foregone a lot of wedding traditions. They created their own. But I would almost be willing to bet a substantial amount of money that if her father were alive today to witness her being married, she would not have any objection to him walking her down the aisle. In the absence of her father, her mother walked her down the aisle. And I just think that this generation now, and I am generalizing, this sense of entitlement, it really gets on my nerves. Where do you get this from? Where do you get this from? But then I had to look back in history to see where this all stemmed from, in my opinion. And this is why I have a problem with feminism. The radical feminism that's promoted day after day. From what I understand, there's more than one type of feminism, but I'm talking about the radical feminism that says we can do what men can do. We don't have to put up with this. We don't want our chairs pulled out. We don't want a man to stand up for us when we walk in a room. We don't want a door held open for us. I've seen videos where men have punched women in their faces because the woman's come up to them and verbally abused them, but the woman, in all her masculinity, was shocked when the man actually turned around and punched her because he matched the energy that she was giving him. Why do we as women have a hard time accepting that we have limitations? I don't want to be like a man. I don't want to have to lift heavy things. My tyre burst on my car the other day, about 3 weeks ago when I was coming back. And when I saw the tyre, it had a really thick nail that had gone into it. And I had called my cousin. He was in a different part of London, but he said he'd get to me. And in the absence of that, my neighbour saw me and he came and changed my tyre. When I tell you the effort that this man exerted to change this tyre, to unscrew the nuts and then change the tyre and, you know, re-screw the nuts. And I was like, this man he's got a small frame, but I know I don't have his strength. I couldn't have changed that tyre. I've never changed a tyre in my life. I've never changed a tyre in my life. Anytime I've gone to get my car looked at, or anytime I've broken down on the road, in all the 35 years that I've been driving, not once has a woman come and assisted me with my car. I'm not saying there are no women mechanics or women can't do that, but even when I've called the breakdown service, it's always been a man. Every single time, 100% of the time, it's always been a man that's come out. I don't want to have to change my tyre. I'm not built to change a tyre. It doesn't say that if I, you know, that I couldn't learn. And then it started me on this trail of where did all this come from? In the thumbnail, you'll see the Spice Girls. And I remember back in the 90s when all of this, they emerged onto the scene and it was all girl power and stuff. And it's like, okay. And around, you know, not long after that or around the same time, it was Destiny's Child, and it was, you know, independent women and, you know, bills, bills, bills. And I was like, okay. You know, and don't get me wrong, I sang to those songs. But then a couple of decades later, fast forward, and these people, these same women, they're married. What happened between then and now to change your stance where you don't sing about that anymore? I mean, you guys must remember Mel B, Scary Spice, and she was the most, in my opinion, the most masculine out of the Spice Girls. Ironically, and I don't laugh about this because I've witnessed this, I've personally witnessed stuff like this. She suffered domestic abuse, okay? She, by all accounts, you know, if you listen to interviews, that she says that she was scared of her husband. And then you have, you know, Geri Halliwell, who was, you know, Union Jack, but now she's married to a respectable guy. I think he's a wealthy guy, and she lives in the countryside. You know, she lives the English countryside life. Because people change and grow, okay? We evolve. But it's like the heavy promotion of all this girl power and leading a generation of women to believe that, you know, we don't need men. I think that's the message they were trying to convey. Even with Destiny's Child, you know, independent women. Trust me, I'm an independent woman. I've actually been told I'm too independent. I've been told that by more than one person. And I know why I've had to be like that. It's been a matter of survival for me to be like that. But I recognise that I do not come from the stance of I don't need no man. There's loads of things that I cannot do that a man can do. And me saying that, a lot of women will say, oh, you know, you're weak, you're behaving as though you're a damsel in distress. No. I know my limitations. I am not someone who claims to know all things and be all things and be a jack of all trades. I've never claimed that. I would never claim that. I know my strengths and I know my weaknesses. Trying to be like a man is not something that I ever want to aspire to be. I think a lot of people were surprised when Meghan, as a person who fights for equal treatment of women, I think they were surprised that the way that she has such respect for her husband. A lot of people were surprised at that because she doesn't see herself as the masculine figure in that relationship. She's very feminine and she allows her husband to do what he does. I get the impression that she doesn't try to undermine him. I've never seen that in their interactions. Now you could say that's for the cameras or whatever, but in my head, I'm like, would Harry still be with her if she demonstrated those characteristics? Because remember, he says that she reminds him of her mum. And from what I remember, she was a feminine woman. And my observation with that, and having spoken to many of my male friends, men just want women to be feminine. And I think that's where we miss it as women. We don't realise how powerful we are when we rest in our femininity. It grieves me to see when we as women don't take care of ourselves. We you know, I'm seeing an increasing number of women who don't take care of their appearance. This is another controversial thing. I was out yesterday, and no word of a lie, throughout the day I saw 4 women with bonnets and headscarves. And, you know, and I'm going to get slated in the comments, we should be allowed to wear our bonnets, blah, 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 blah. We have such a negative self-image, especially as women of colour. I don't like to use that term, but as women of colour, why do we no longer take pride in ourselves? Why do we feel that it's okay to just present ourselves any old how? Our mothers didn't do that. Our grandmothers didn't do that. Not in my family anyway. We don't do that. You know, coming out in dressing gown, slippers, just to go to the corner shop. It's like, yeah, the corner shop is like 2 minutes away, but how you present yourself, you know, there's a saying that says first impressions last. And that's always stuck with me. Because before you even open your mouth, someone who doesn't know you, they will have sized you up within the first 5 seconds of setting their eyes on you. You don't even have to speak. And they will have already made a judgment about you based entirely, solely upon your appearance. And I just think, like, have we as women, have we lost, do we really not care anymore then? Do we really not care? You know, we really don't care to the point where I don't need anyone. I don't need help, don't need anyone, could do it all by myself. But then you've got the women who have had a string of failed relationships with different, you know, different baby daddies. That's another controversial thing. And that's not only restricted to our community. That applies to whatever walk of life you come from. I know I'm rambling, guys, but I need to sort of get this out, because I've had this on my mind for the last few days, and I'm just chatting to you. So if you can pick sense out of nonsense, hopefully you'll understand what I mean. Because I'm trying to understand your thought process when it comes to stuff like this. What do you think about how far the pendulum has swung? Has common sense left the chat, guys? Has radical feminism got so far out of hand that these men, they don't even know what to do anymore? It's like they're walking on eggshells around us. You see, when I say your strength is in your femininity, I've noticed when you talk about Scary Spice again, over the years, I've noticed that she's tried to soften her look. She's tried to dress more conservatively in an attempt to change her image, because the image that she portrayed when she was in the Spice Girls was it was scary. Hence Scary Spice. And she knows that. That's why she gave herself that moniker. She knows that. And you notice that Posh Spice, she always tried to distance herself from them, because it's like, oh, I'm not like them. I'm with them, but I'm not like them. I'm in a different class. You know. I just find it really, really funny as an observer to see these things, because I have so many thoughts about different things, and I just want to put it out there because I want to know what you guys think. Back in the day, women were looked at as property. But what I've noticed is that women still want to get married. And despite what you hear come out of some women's mouths, they've been with their partner for 20, 30 years, had his kids, and the guy doesn't want to get married, and she's all right with that. She's not all right with that. She dreams to be married to him. And I've spoken to enough women to know that. Obviously, it doesn't apply to every woman in that situation, but I've spoken to enough women to make that determination, because they've told me with their own mouth. You know, women are still happy to take their husband's surname. Like this YouTuber that got married the other day. Now, she's independent. She's a boss, yeah, but she's very feminine. She's very feminine. And she couldn't wait to take her husband's surname. And I found it really endearing. I was like, oh yeah, that, you know, she didn't see herself as his property. As far as they're both concerned, they're equal. They have an equal partnership, and they have their defined roles within that partnership. And as I said, they had foregone a number of traditions within their wedding, but they were happy to be married to each other. The cohabiting situation wasn't enough for them. They wanted to be married because they want to have children. They wanted to be married in order to do that. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, because that's something that I did. I said I would never have kids without being married, and that's exactly what happened. You know, I think this thing of, guys, I'm just expanding the conversation, okay? I just think this thing of, you know, and I have friends who've done this, and they know I love them, okay? It's not a condemnation, it's just an observation. When we as women decide that we're going to have kids and not within the institution of marriage, and yes, it's very old-fashioned, but for our community especially, and when I say our community, I know you know what I mean, we're damaged because we have no cohesion, we have no firm foundation. Other demographics do, and we tend not to. And we're damaged as a group. You guys know what I mean. There's a lot of trauma, there's a lot of damage, there's a lot of hurt, which we're not willing to talk about. A lot of us don't want to seek therapy because we think it's beneath us. You guys know on this channel, my tagline is enhance, enrich, elevate. I don't come on here to talk, you know, gossip is not my thing. I don't do celebrity gossip. I don't do trash talk. I don't do that. But sometimes I think we sweep things under the carpet because we don't want backlash. YouTube is not my job. I just come on here to talk. And I come on here to talk about things that matter to me. And you guys matter to me as my sisters. You know, it sounds all airy-fairy, but you do. Because this goes on generation after generation. We are damaged, but we don't like to talk about it. Because it's too embarrassing. It's like, oh, don't talk about that. It's like things that happen in church. I grew up in the church, and you guys who grew up in church know what I'm talking about. There's things that go on that we don't want to talk about because it's too, we just want to turn a blind eye. It's too much. Even things that go on now. Let's not talk about that. Let's not bring that to people's attention. Let's just hide it. But we can't hide it. We need to talk about this stuff. Because if we don't, it will go on into my daughter's generation and the generations thereafter if we don't deal with it now. Men are confused. Men are confused. I got enough male friends. I've actually got more male friends than female friends, and we talk about this stuff all the time. They are confused because they don't know where they stand, because we've given them mixed messages. I love my door being open for me, whether it's a car door, a house door, you know, a door inside a building. I love a door being open for me. I love a chair being pulled out for me. I love when a man stands up for me when I enter the room. I'll never apologise for that. And if that makes me weak, oh well. I'm weak then. But I know that in my weakness there is a strength. Because there is strength in your femininity. I'm not a femininity guru, can't even say the word. There are loads of channels on YouTube about that. I've never watched them personally. Because if I, at this age of 53 next month, if I don't know how to be a woman, then something's wrong. Quite frankly. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I've just had these thoughts over the last few days, and I thought I'd come and share them with you and get your take on it, and see what you think. So, yeah. I can put this fan away now because I've cooled down. But with that, guys, let me know what you think in the comments. Has the pendulum swung in the complete opposite direction where we've just lost... We've lost the plot, basically. Why can't we just have a balance? We've come a long way as women. We've been afforded opportunities and things that we were never allowed to do before. Generations before, women were not allowed to own property. They weren't allowed to own property. Can you imagine what that would be like today? They weren't allowed to work. We have so much, you know, we have so much that we do take for granted. You know, and people, I told you guys I'm not a Bible scholar, but people say, oh, you know, the Bible is archaic, this, that. You've got Deborah, you've got Esther, you've got Dorcas, you've got business women in the Bible, okay? So this is not a new concept. You know, Deborah was a judge, Esther was a queen, revered by her king. You know, she, in her femininity, she saved a nation. In her femininity, she saved her people, Esther. And that always stays with me. That always stays with me. So, guys, if you got anything out of this chat, let me know what you think, if it made sense. This is just, it's not structured in any way. I'm just talking. And let me know what you think about that story. Was the dad right to say, if you don't want me to walk you down the aisle, then you can pay for your own wedding? What are your thoughts on that? If you were that bride's father, what would you say? I'd be interested to know what you think. So guys, with that said, I'm going to wrap up this episode of Coffee Chats. If your thoughts were provoked in any way, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. And if you haven't yet become a house guest, don't forget to hit subscribe and activate all your notifications. Not personalized, all your notifications. So until next time, guys, look after yourselves. Have a great weekend. If you're in the UK, in London specifically, I hope you don't melt. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we shall catch up in the next episode of Coffee Chats.